The woods can be a scary place.
According to a survey on my community tab, the biggest fears while hiking and backpacking are wild animals, malicious people, and injuries.
And look, that stuff is real and dangerous, no doubt about it, but it's not the biggest danger we face when hiking.
In fact, according to a number of sources, wild animals like bears and mountain lions don't even make it into the top 10 deadliest animals. Malicious people only come in at number 2. And the deadliest animal we face while hiking and backpacking, you probably don't even think that much about. Which is why I've come out to New Mexico State University to stick my arm in a cage full of the world's deadliest animal.
I spent 3 days at the Hansen Mosquito Research Lab testing a variety of products against mosquitoes and ticks for one main reason.
So mosquitoes are notorious for being the most dangerous animal, right?
Mosquitoes are by far the deadliest animal in the world, and obviously they kill people by transmitting infectious diseases.
Okay, so those are worldwide statistics, and a lot of those deaths are from malaria and dengue fever that, at least in recent years, haven't been big concerns in the United States, but that could be changing.
We also have dengue now circulating in the southern part of the United States. So in Florida and South Texas, that virus is there permanently, as best I can tell. There's a risk of its introduction across the rest of the West and well into California.
As a comparison, bears kill less than one person a year. Mountain lions kill about one person every 5 years. So, even in the States, mosquitoes are about 200% more deadly than our scariest predators.
Not to mention annoying, which is why I'm here sticking my arm in this cage full of mosquitoes, because I want to know what is the best way to deter mosquitoes and ticks.
To find out, we're going to be testing 4 different products: DEET, Picaridin lotion, permethrin clothes treatment, and a portable Thermacell device.
And you may notice that 2 of these products are made by Sawyer. They provided the funds to help do these tests, but have no say in the outcome of these tests. I'm nervous that the Picaridin is already failing. And we are going to be following testing procedures laid out by the EPA and the World Health Organization. And if any of these products don't perform the way that they claim, it does not seem to be repelling mosquitoes any whatsoever. You're going to see it on camera, I promise you. Now, when most people think of mosquito spray, they're thinking about DEET. It's the most common insect repellent available on the market, and it comes in a variety of concentrations going all the way up to 100% DEET. Today, we're going to be treating with the lowest concentration of DEET available on the market, which is 7% DEET.
To test these repellents, I relied on the experience and expertise of Dr. Emma Hansen and PhD student Haley Luker. They set up 2 different tests using EPA and World Health Organization guidelines. We had a 12-inch cube filled with 25 hungry female mosquitoes and an opening for my arm. To make it easy to count bites, we used a glove to limit the biting area to just 3.5 inches. To make sure mosquitoes were hungry and that I was, quote-unquote, an attractive host, I stuck my untreated arm in the cage as a control test. I then treated my arm with 7% DEET and stuck my arm in again to see if they stayed away. We repeated this for 5 minutes every hour until we got a bite, but one bite wasn't enough.
And I have a confirmed mosquito bite that has started to itch on my wrist. But now, because we've gotten one, I have to wait 30 more minutes to see if I get a second bite. And if I get a second bite, then that first one counts as, it's not just some rogue mosquito that decided to, I don't know.
The next day, I did the exact same test with the Picaridin lotion.
Today is Picaridin day, and so I've got a 20% Picaridin lotion that I'm going to be rubbing on both my arms. This arm is going to be for mosquitoes. This arm is going to be for ticks.
And was a little disappointed with the results.
I'm a little concerned.
I'm a little concerned too. I'm nervous that the Picaridin is already failing.
But before we talk about that, we need to talk about what makes mosquitoes so deadly in the first place.
Worldwide, the main killer in terms of mosquito-borne diseases is malaria, and that is up around 500,000 people every year, and most of those people are children. My name is Dr. Catherine Hanley. I go by Kathy. I'm a Regents Professor of Biology at New Mexico State University. My research focuses on mosquito-borne viruses. So that includes dengue, Zika virus, yellow fever virus, chikungunya virus. In the case of dengue virus, which is the next in terms of the scale, not so many people die, and by not so many I mean 25,000 children a year, which is a lot of children. But millions and millions of people become very sick. They often have to be hospitalized. They can't work. they can't take care of their kids. If they're children, they can't go to school. So it has really serious repercussions. If you're in the wilderness in the United States, again, you might not be thinking about mosquito-borne disease, but West Nile is still real, it still exists. Mostly, if we're talking about insect and other arthropod like tick-borne pathogens, we're thinking about Lyme disease, which sickens an enormous number, thousands and thousands of people every year in the United States.
Now, mosquitoes don't transmit Lyme disease, which is why we also tested for ticks. The tick test was a little more straightforward. According to EPA guidelines, you make 4 lines in your arm using a pin or a marker. Between the first and second lines is where the ticks are released onto my arm. It's important to note that this area is left untreated. Above the second line, we treat with whatever insect repellent we want to test, and we see if the ticks try to cross the treatment line. We do this with at least 5 ticks every hour until a tick crosses the treatment line by more than 2 centimeters. If 2 ticks cross within 30 minutes of each other, the repellent is no longer working. So those are the tests that we did, but let's talk about results for a minute.
7% DEET protected against mosquitoes for 4 hours and against ticks for 5 hours. That's about 2 to 3 hours longer than the bottle claims. When we tested Picaridin lotion, we got similar results protecting up to 5 hours from mosquitoes. Now, Picaridin is offered as a less greasy, better smelling alternative to DEET, and at 20%, the lowest amount I could find for sale on the market, it has similar performance to 7% DEET, which I think is good news. The not so great news for my sponsor is the bottle claims 14-hour protection from mosquitoes and ticks, which we just weren't seeing with mosquitoes. Okay, so we're right at about 5 hours with the Picaridin, arm and cage with the mosquitoes, and I've gotten 2 confirmed bites in about 5 minutes time, which means the Picaridin spray is no longer working effectively. But 14-hour protection could be true with ticks. We actually don't know because we stopped testing at 8 hours. Okay, so we are at hour 8 for the Picaridin lotion as far as testing it for ticks. And so this is going to be the last test that we do because after this, we just don't have time to continue testing this for hours and hours on end.
Now, in my mind, Picaridin has always been what I think of when I want to repel ticks. DEET is what I think of for mosquitoes, but my personal preference isn't what the bottle claims. It claims 14-hour protection against mosquitoes and ticks, and for mosquitoes at least, this just wasn't my experience. And that wasn't the only bad news, because we also tested 4 different shirts treated with Sawyer's permethrin spray.
This is permethrin treated, has never been washed, treated less than a week ago. Let's see how it does. According to the label, clothes treated with permethrin are supposed to repel and kill both mosquitoes and ticks for up to 42 days, and we just weren't finding this to be true. All the shirts that I treated at home before we came, none of them seemed to be working to repel either mosquitoes or ticks, and so I brought some permethrin with me. We're going to go outside, we're going to treat our control shirt so that it's a fresh treatment, and then we're going to come back in and see how the ticks and the mosquitoes behave with that.
Okay, no, but if you're out in the field with this, swarmed by mosquitoes, they're gonna bite you. Even if they don't finish their blood meal, they're gonna give you the virus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of our shirts, including one freshly soaked in permethrin, failed to prevent mosquitoes from biting or deter ticks from crawling up my arm.
Now, it's important for me to say that this wasn't a statistically reliable sample size, as I was the only host in all the tests that we performed. And according to Dr. Hansen, director of the Mosquito Research Lab, brands can't make these claims unless they have statistically reliable test results to back up their claims.
And ultimately, this is where I think the problem lies. I spent quite a bit of time talking with Sawyer and trying to understand how our product could have EPA approval and yet seem like it's not working the way it claims. What I found is my definition of the word repellent and what the EPA defines as repellent are significantly different. In my mind, if something is going to repel, that means you will not get bites. But the EPA defines repellent as any product that makes you less attractive to pests. That is a very broad definition of repellent. If a product reduces mosquito bites by even 1 bite, you could technically claim it made you less attractive.
Now, Sawyer's products go way beyond that broad definition. Picaridin prevented mosquito bites for up to 5 hours against the most aggressive mosquito species in existence. It is my understanding that if it can repel against Aedes aegypti, the only mosquito species that we used in our tests, it can repel other mosquito species for even longer. And Sawyer's 14-hour protection time is taken from an average of 8 different species, not all of which are this aggressive.
Now, as for permethrin, it certainly falls under the EPA's definition, as I started to realize while we were testing.
So we've got a rather interesting development. I stuck my arm in the cage with a freshly permethrin-treated shirt. And even though they did bite me, and even though that does not prevent a transmission of disease, we do have at least 8 dead mosquitoes in the cage. So there's a chance that it could reduce the number of the amount of exposure that you had. Because if you stayed in the same area for a while at camp, some of them might start biting, some of them might start dying, and it would reduce the concentration at camp, but it may not prevent you from getting bit at all.
These mosquitoes are known to be skip feeders. That means they bite you once, fly away, come back, bite you a second time, third time or so. After one bite, they are probably not going to come back because they drop dead. Yeah.
Even the ticks that crawled up the permethrin-treated shirt were later found dead. It's my understanding that it takes ticks up to an hour or more before they actually bite and embed, and it's possible that permethrin-treated clothing could kill the ticks before they embed. Once again, I simply didn't test for this. In the end, it became clear to me that Sawyer products are being heavily regulated by the EPA, including what they can and cannot write on the bottle, and they're not doing anything different than any other company using the same active ingredients. What I think the problem here might be is what you and I expect from a repellent and what these repellents can actually do are significantly different. What I would have liked to see and what I think most people expect from repellents like these is 0 bites. And both DEET and Picaridin can provide that for a time. And then after that time, it will probably continue to reduce the number of bites, which means you will still be less attractive to both mosquitoes and ticks, just not completely so. In which case, you probably need to reapply. The problem with reapplying is that Picaridin label says not to exceed more than 2 applications in one day, and DEET says avoid over application. So use your best judgment. Now, these are all repellents you wear on your body, but another product that I've always wanted to test are these Thermacell devices.
Okay, so today we are testing the Thermacell. This thing is an insecticide, basically. It fills the air with an insecticide, and so we can't do that inside because it's not only going to be bothering us, but it could kill all the mosquitoes that they use for testing. So we've set up a test outside. We're going to be putting the Thermacell in between me and the mosquitoes, and we've got the mosquitoes in this long tube with a divider in the middle. If the mosquitoes fly towards me and the Thermacell, we know the Thermacell is not working. If once we turn the Thermacell on, they fly away from the Thermacell, then we know that it is working.
But we never saw that. What we did see is mosquitoes acting drunk or sick before eventually dropping down dead. This took about 30 minutes, which is the same amount of time the package claims it needs to start being effective. So once again, it's not that Thermacell completely repels mosquitoes, but it certainly makes it harder for them to fly and eventually kills them.
So there you have it. DEET is the gold standard for repelling mosquitoes. Picaridin seemed to work really well with ticks and might work better with less aggressive mosquitoes. Permethrin did kill both mosquitoes and ticks, but did not prevent mosquitoes from biting. And Thermacell did repel mosquitoes in the area, but didn't seem to repel them. And remember, I was the only host in all of these tests. Ideally, to get more reliable results, you'd have multiple people performing these tests with multiple species of both mosquitoes and ticks. And I'm curious your experience. Have you used any of these products? And if so, how did they seem to work? Let me know in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, subscribe, and do all those other things. And as always, thanks for watching.